Hello everyone and welcome back to another reaction video. So yesterday it was National Anime Day and sadly I couldn't attend. There was a lot of things I need to do in my real life, but hopefully this, goes well. We're gonna be reacting to all the Disney film Ghibli films Disney some December by Channel Awesome. I think his name is Doug. It's been a while since I watched his content. I, highly recommend to for you guys to watch his, nostalgia videos. They're pretty awesome. And I hope you guys enjoy this reaction. I will leave the original video in the link in the description down below. And without further ado, let's go.
Hey, so just a little info about this collection. We still get hit with a lot of copyright claims, sadly, and we do fight them, but we have to fight them slowly or else we might get a strike and such. And
Yeah.
one of the groups that comes after us a lot is sadly Studio Ghibli in Japan, the Japan version. I don't think the American one comes after us. So we haven't
Okay.
posted the Disney Decembers of the Studio Ghibli collection, but
Yeah, here's the thing. When everyone was using AI, they was using the Ghibli style not fan art, the art style to make some memes, and they legitimately make that as a illegal law. If you do any AI generated Ghibli films, then that is a sentence, which I found just like amazing and funny at the same time. But let's continue.
we're posting it here because we figure if it's one video that gets hit that's a giant collection of them, that we can fight easier than a ton of them. But what we did that month is that we had Studio Ghibli, and then we had like kind of these other Disney films I didn't review that people want me to review. So we're gonna split them up into two. This is the collection
Okay.
of just the Studio Ghibli films, and we'll have the other ones that were in this month in another collection. Just to be safe, if this one does get hit, you can still watch the other ones while we fight that. So,
All right.
with that said, take a look and enjoy.
Well, let's go.
If you were to ask a random person on the street who Hayao Miyazaki was, chances are they wouldn't know. But if you were to ask a movie buff, anyone online, or pretty much any person from Japan, everyone would tell you that he is the animation champion of the world. Only in the past 10-15 years has he finally started to get credit in America,
This is
allowing
so
our
amazing.
audiences to see tons and tons of his genius work. But it turns out he's not the only one turning out Miyazaki material. His animation company, Studio Ghibli, has also been turning out timeless classic after timeless classic. Again, only starting to get recognition in America in the past 10-15 years. And who do we have to thank for all this imagination being shown to us? That's right, the Big D.
Yep.
Or more specifically, John Lasseter.
The Big
who's
D.
friends with Hayao
Oh,
Miyazaki and promised to
okay.
get as much of his work to our audiences as possible.
All right.
The result was the majority of the studio's films being re-released and redubbed in America. But they didn't just half-ass it, they went out of their way to get the best talent possible. The best sound people, the best translators, and of course, the best actors. It only figures that Disney, another great leader in animation imagination, would be the people to introduce us to not only such wonderful artwork, but such fantastic stories. So, this Disney December, every single day of the month, I am going to be looking at one of the films from Miyazaki or Miyazaki's studio. The one catch is that it has to have been re-released by Disney and redubbed by them, because, hey, it is Disney December. Now, there's only one problem with that. There's not enough films to fill out the entire month.
Okay.
So, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go back to all the films that people requested, but I never got around to. That's right, the Nightmare Before Christmases, the Dick Tracys. Hell, I'll even go over the ones I did a vlog of already, but people seem to want to see the Disney December version of it. And hey, some time has gone by, maybe some of the opinions have changed. So, every other day it's a Studio Ghibli film, and the other half of the days it's gonna be one of the Disney classics. But hell, even that's not enough. So, I'm gonna give in to peer pressure and also do a vlog series on one that I've been getting a lot of requests to do for a while. That's right, both my brother and I are going to be doing a vlog series of Gravity Falls, right along with Disney December every single day of the month. It'll be the most ambitious Disney December yet. You'll be vomiting rainbows a week after watching them. There's a lot of imagination, a lot of great characters, a lot of great stories. Hell, there's just a lot of greatness to get through. So sit back, everybody. This is Disney December, the Studio Ghibli Overlook Classics and Gravity Falls edition.
Let's do this.
Let's start with a film that wasn't technically Studio Ghibli when it came out, but they still marketed it under the name and Disney picked it up anyway, so I think it counts.
Okay.
Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, a film surely not to be ignored. This was only director Miyazaki's second film, and already it was a gigantic
Oh, second
epic. The
film.
story centers around a princess. Yeah, get used to seeing those. I think Ghibli might be the only studio that actually uses princesses more than Disney. Who lives in an apocalyptic future. Actually, one of the nicer apocalyptic futures. Very green, lots of mountains, nice scenery. Well, at least in this part of the world. Other parts of the world, there's nothing but war and ruin. Everyone's attacking everyone, trying to find old monsters and creatures to destroy one another. When those warring countries find
So
the Valley
Monster
of the Wind,
Hunters?
they see an opportunity to use their land and their resources to their advantage. Nausicaa, after discovering the death of her father, peacefully tries to find a way to save everybody and not cause any more bloodshed. Along the way, he comes across a boy who's on the other side and asks her to join his quest. But she doesn't want to be on anyone's side, she just wants war to leave and no more people to die. No more people or bugs. Yes, in this futuristic world, there's also giant monsters that look like bugs. Hell, even the planes kind
Of
look
course.
like bugs. Which is kind of cool when you think about it. You assume all birds are gone in this world, so their
Oh,
planes
shit.
wouldn't really look like birds like ours. Instead, they would look like insects.
Yeah, they look like
But
insects.
nevertheless, Nausicaa doesn't want anything living to perish. So she goes back and forth between every single side imaginable, trying to find the peaceful route.
Oh my god.
For only a second film, it's one hell of an ambitious project. It tries to throw so
Yeah.
much at you, and for the most part, it pays off pretty well. You very easily understand the conflict of every single character, and every single character does have a conflict. It's a lot of fun just seeing them work off each other, trying to figure out strategies, what to do next. Everything is always in a huge rush.
Okay, Doug is like giving out so much information very quickly, and geez, I need time to process it. But yeah, everything is pretty true. Like they did like so much like passion into this project, and that's what I really like about the Ghibli films. They always go in their best elements and try to give out the most detail ever. I mean, the shading, the lighting, like the build-ups, like so much like details, so much like characters, so much interactions. Like it feels like a working society, and that's what makes it so amazing. And with the imagination as well. And yeah, it just wow. That's all I can say.
Something like that can usually be a little too busy and distracting, but the characters are strong enough to pull it through. At first, I thought it was kind of weird that Nausicaa would flip flop back and forth between sort of this crying, sad, emotional person to this sudden, sword wielding badass that always seems to have a plan. But when you
Jeez.
see what it's all building up to in the end, yeah, actually, it does kind of make sense. It's kind of like a peaceful person who knows how to fight but never really wants to fight because she doesn't want to see anyone hurt. So when she does have to do it or her rage gets the best of her, she feels an incredible amount of guilt. With that said, I love the fact that she always has a plan. I mean, always. Her
Oh,
ship is
really?
going down, you go this way, I'll go that way, I'll jump up here and do this thing. Kingdom being overthrown, I'll go this way, you go this way. We'll rendezvous after we do the huge, big, gigantic thing. She isn't just kicking a little bit of ass and that's it. She always has a strategy. And she
So she's basically almost Mary Sue-ish, but instead of everything working into a convenience, she has a plan with a plan with a plan. Okay.
comes up with them so fast. She's a lot of fun to watch. She also has a real good supporting cast. Voice actors like Patrick Stewart and Shia LaBeouf really add a lot of credibility. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Shia LaBeouf had credibility? Well, yeah, say what you will about his personal life in the Transformer movies, but I don't think he's that bad an actor. And I think he finds just the right mix in this role. Angry and vengeful, but still looking for the right thing to do. If I did have a problem with this film, though, I would actually say that, as good as the characters are, I could have used just a little bit more of them. That
Yeah.
is to say, if a story like this really wanted to have the biggest impact, it probably should have been 2 movies. I mean it when I say they throw a lot at you, and it is constantly on the move. That's not to say they don't have their slower moments to just be characters. They do, and they're done well. But for the giant climax this film is trying to build up at the end, I felt I really want to know these people a touch more. For example, the villain, played by Uma Thurman, and her second in command seem to have this kind of playful banter where they almost hope the other would die, but they also kind of respect the strategy of the other. A part of me really wanted to know more about that. But it's a big animated epic and you can only fit into 2 hours, so a lot of that stuff has to be cut. And I'm sure there was more stuff. This is based on a manga. I get the feeling they went into even more detail about these people.
Oh, I
It's not
bet
that
you
the
they
film needs
did.
to be longer, it already feels like a decent length. I just felt like I really wanted to be on these characters' side more than what I was. Which is to say, I didn't want to see them perish, but I didn't feel the entire weight of the film the way I think it wanted me to feel it. Maybe one or two less scenes of traveling and shouting orders replaced with a little bit more of natural talking would have done it. But the
Yeah, I think they should like add more depth to the characters, to both the protagonist and the antagonist, to get a more understanding of the movie and how it will come, how it will, collectively added to the grand finale. I think that will be very good. And that's the problem with a lot of movies, TV shows, and games. They have this cool story with awesome recognizable characters, and they don't finish it. I mean, a good example is Val. Like, he makes like iconic games one after the other. Portal, Team Fortress 2, and he just leave it. Like, there's so many plot holes that that we will never like find out or get a conclusion of, which is, it's a bummer, but that's how it is.
really is a bit of a nitpick. It's still very large in scale and very impressive to look at.
Oh
And I want
yes.
to know what it's all going to amount to. Had they been able to explore a little bit more, I think this could have been on par with, say, the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh
But as
really?
it's still pretty damn impressive. It's so cool seeing where all of these Miyazaki tropes start. The technology, the monsters, the love of nature. His thumbprint is all over it.
Oh yeah.
And it's even more impressive when you think no computers were used on it either. I mean, look at this. This
Dude.
looks like something that could be animated today. Great backgrounds, great.
I will scratch that. No, it does not. It does not look like it will be animated today because things are pretty ugly now.
Environment, great atmosphere, great characters, great story. What else can you say?
I mean, it's a
Nausicaa,
Ghibli
Valley
film.
of the Wind is just great. Go take a rent and see for yourself.
Alright, there's one.
The awesomeness of Castle in the Sky can be summed
Oh,
up
okay,
right
Castle
in
in
the
the
very
Sky.
opening. Ships are soaring through the air, a young girl falls out, a boy discovers her, and suddenly a glowing crystal causes her to slowly but surely float down to.
Hey, by the way, I watched MadPad's theories on Minecraft, which I highly recommend watching. He made a connection between was it a Castle in the Sky and Minecraft, and it is because of descendant of this ancient mastery civilization that just disappeared without explanation. But for I think, I'm not sure if Doug is gonna explain it, but they were taken away because of a disease. Now, do keep in mind, I only watched the MadPad description, the description comparison, whatever. I only see those two. I only see that in the MadPack's explanation of the Minecraft lore. I don't know the full depth detail of the movie because I never watch it, but I can see the comparison. It's very interesting. Again, Ghibli film always creates new, wonderful societies, culture, nature, technology, all that jizz, which is fantastic.
Ground while enchanting music is
And I should really stop
Yup,
pausing. This
that's
shit
the
is an
movie
hour
in a
long.
nutshell. And I mean that in a very positive way. Castle in the Sky has all the ambitious adventure of a kid's film that you remember watching in the 80s.
Okay.
The ones that had a touch of an edge, but mostly
Oh yeah,
a
the
very
golems,
timeless,
robots. I
endearing
mean,
feel to them. The ones like Return to Oz or Labyrinth. The ones that still seem to hold up after so many years. Well,
Peter
for the
Pan?
most part. There's no David Bowie copies in this.
Oh,
Though
okay.
Maybe the head of that robot could. Anyway, the film starts off exactly like I said, a girl falling to the ground and a boy discovers her. The boy's name is Pazu and the girl's name is Sheeta, voiced by Anna Paquin and James Vanderbeek. He nurses her back to health as she admits that she's being chased by some evildoers. The kind that know that she is the key to some sort of mystical something or other.
Yeah.
Again,
Oh,
very
okay. He's
80s
mentioning
fantasy.
it.
Quite coincidentally, Pazu has been looking for that something or other. A floating city known as Laputa. Some believe it's been destroyed, others say it never existed, but of course, our young heroes are destined to discover it. Along the way, they come across some treacherous air pirates, with their leader voiced by Cloris Leachman, who in my opinion can do no wrong. She once again plays up both the comedy and the awesomeness of this character, being both goofy and badass at the same time. The villains chasing them are led by Mark Hamill, who, if you know his voiceover work, once again gives a deviously delicious performance, dragging out his lines and constantly making you question, does he have a British accent or not?
Oh
Once
no,
again,
he does.
not only does the artwork in this movie show a lot of patience and a lot of passion, but the creativity is just wonderful.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I'm watching an extended version of the timeless Disney afternoon shows, kind of like DuckTales meets Tailspin, DuckTales-spin with people. But whatever you
Duckspin.
call it, it's a ton of fun. The dubbing is once again very well done, with the main characters' voices displaying the wide-eyed whimsy, and the side characters being goofy and memorable. For whatever reason, I especially like the lighting in this film too, particularly the day versus night. I'm always a sucker for night shots that have that warm glow from a building, and something about Miyazaki's skies are always just so blue. You
Oh
can
yeah.
get lost in them somehow. I don't know what color he's choosing or what palette he has, but they're always just incredible. You want to fly through these skies every time you see them. If I had to nitpick anything wrong, I guess I could say that maybe James Van Der Beek sounds a touch too old to be playing this part, but then again, you can't quite figure out the boy's age, maybe just his voice is changing. Everything else in this movie is classic Miyazaki. A lot of focus on the technicals and how they work. A lot of using machinery, but also this very high respect for plant life. There's something so cool about seeing those rustic robots and yet having green grow on them.
Oh
In
yeah.
a strange way, I think that almost sums up Miyazaki's work. A perfect combination of advanced technology.
Dude, that looks awesome. Oh, this one. This is the flower. This is what I saw on Matt Pat's video. How the golems were basically inspired by these robots, which is awesome. And what it's about to do is the same thing as a golem does to give out to little children villages.
That's also kind of old, kind of new, but
Look,
always
see?
has a good mix of nature in there too. The pirates
Iconic.
especially are just so likable. I don't know what it is about them. They're just so much energy and they're so goofy and they have such an awesome leader. It's pretty hard not to wish you could be a part of this group. It has a lot of the pretty imagery, a lot of the nice colors, and a lot of the imagination that you usually associate with his work. It's hard to know what else to say about it. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be breaking any big barriers necessarily, at least none that I know of, but as these general fantasies go, ones that mix technology with great characters and a gripping story with lots of nature and excitement and romance and just all that good stuff that you've grown to love, this one mixes them up pretty good. Take flight and discover for yourself.
Damn, that's like a good shot. Like all these pictures could be in a poster. Like you could put it in a wall, in the phone, in your
Whenever
iPad,
there's
everything.
a discussion about the most powerful animated films,
Oh,
like
this
no
one!
fairy tales, no magic, just pure,
I
raw
remember this
adult
one.
emotion, Grave of the Fireflies is usually brought up. A lot of people consider it a good segue who see animation as just kid stuff, something that can't be taken seriously by adults. So, when I heard that, I got really excited and I sort of got this idea of what it was going to be like and what it was going to be about. I saw this film around the same time I saw Saving Private Ryan on the big screen, and I had an
Oh,
idea what it
shit.
was gonna be. Oh, war is bad, people throwing up their hands saying why, oh, the no good of violence, and so on and so forth. But what I got was something very, very different. I knew
Oh,
it was
yeah.
gonna be more focused on the family end, but not quite in the way they depicted it.
I actually watched this when I think I was maybe in middle school, and that shit was just like I was speechless. I thought I was gonna see some nonsense of just boring stuff, and we had to take notes. It's gonna be significant for our quiz, but no, we actually sat down and watched something that is so amazing.
I don't even see it as really a war movie. I see it more as a battle between pride and sanity, between love and self-preservation. So it kind of confused me when I was younger because I kept thinking I was going to see some sort of anti-war film, and I felt that's not really what I got. I didn't dislike it, I knew it was good, I just didn't quite know what to clarify it as, what to accept it as. Now that I'm older, that's one of the things I like the most about it. It doesn't seem anti war or pro war, it's just a boy and his sister trying to figure out what's the most important. You know the film's
Yeah.
gonna be grim when you see the death of our main character being reunited with the spirit of his younger sister. Well, we know this doesn't end happily. We can only go up from here. The two have a flashback as they roam the spirit world of how they got to where they are. The boy's name is Sieta, and the girl is Sesako. They're in the final days of World War II, but you wouldn't know it with all the bombings that are still going on. Their father is in the war, and their mother is suddenly killed from one of the bombings. The
Oh.
two decide to go live with a distant aunt, but she starts to get a little on their nerves, claiming they aren't working hard enough for the food that she's preparing, and having a pretty understandable breakdown every once in a while for the situation that she's been put in. Unsatisfied with the living situation, Sieta decides to take his sister and live on their own, believing he's totally capable of doing so. Trying to claim his independence, slowly but surely he discovers that they can't survive on their own. But he's
Oh,
too proud and too determined
jeez.
to see the truth and lives in a horrible state of denial, thinking that if he tries harder and sticks to his independence, they can come out of this okay. But reality starts to set in and options start to become fewer and fewer. Always thinking salvation is just a day away, he continues to try his best living on his own while his world crumbles. The artistic style in this movie is not trying to be so much pretty or showing off as much as trying to be more realistic. They still move like anime characters, but it's not trying to do any big kicks or flips or any weird angles. Most
Yeah,
of the shots keep
it's
very still and just let the
it is
emotion of the
very
animation carry it
realistic.
through, as well as the voice acting, which is dubbed over pretty well. I personally grew up with the subtitle version and prefer that one a bit more, but the dub is still very well done. There's a lot of different ways you can look at this movie. On the one hand, you can see the boy as a terrible character. Not only is he letting himself starve to death, but he's letting his sister starve to death as well. But I
Oh.
think because they choose to do this age, it makes us suddenly understand what he's trying to accomplish. I think a lot of growing people at that age can become incredibly delusional. And that may be part of the focus of the story, is not to try and grow up too fast, and to appreciate what you have and who you have while you still have them. While many people see it
Yeah.
as an anti-war film, and I suppose you can see it as that way, my thought is that this can take place over any disaster. It could happen after a tornado, a tsunami, an earthquake, or yes, even a war. The focus is on the boy who doesn't realize how far he's being pushed, and that there's no crime in accepting failure or asking for help. Part of what makes it work is that the boy himself is not a mean character. A lot of people that have a lot of pride, they usually just throw into the jerk category. Oh, there's nothing good about them, they're just too full of themselves and think they can do stuff that's totally delusional. But this kid's a likable kid. His dad is a fighter and he wants to do the same thing. He wants to be the big supporter. A lot of young people were under that delusion during World War II. If you're failing, it just means you're not trying hard enough. Fight harder, fight harder. I think there's this sense of losing one's honor if you accept defeat, which is fitting as we see Sieda witness the surrender of Japan. And he's furious by it. He doesn't care that the war is over, he's just torn apart that they actually lost. It's a film that takes an angle that many films like this don't take. Not the family element, there's a lot of movies that do that, but the coming of age element of knowing when to declare your independence and when not to, and that the consequences can be greater than you ever could have imagined. For someone who was expecting more the Saving Private Ryan route where there was going to be a lot of dead bodies and a lot of gore and a lot of obvious symbolism, I was really blown away that the emotionally gripping and tormenting parts of this movie are the simple choices that they make, and how easily things could have been fixed if he just swallowed his pride. As a young man watching this, I don't know if I was really ready to accept that. Or at least, I didn't know how to accept it. Maybe in that way it was more ahead of its time an adult than I thought. You have to have a real understanding of what misguided pride can do, and what the non-acceptance of failure can be capable of. The honorable route is not always the winning route. And that's a tough thing not just for people growing up to learn, but for straight-up grown-ups to learn. It gets
Yeah.
a little better and a little more
100%.
heartbreaking every single time I see it. And maybe that's because I feel like I understand it a bit more every time I see it. But again, one of the great things is you could look at it a totally different way. Maybe it's about respecting your elders. Maybe there is no right or wrong. Maybe it's all about the war. Maybe it's all about the consequences of war. Anyone can look at and draw their own conclusion. What is concrete about the film is that you look at these two characters and want them to make it through, even though you're told at the very beginning that they're not going to make it through. This makes it all the more heartbreaking as you watch. Whatever age you are, it's an important film to check out. It's unlike any other film of its kind, and deserves all the praise that it gets.
Jeez, dude. I gotta say that shit really pulled my heartstring when I first watched it. and I was like, oh no. But yeah, Doug is right. They were pulling elements of like things that people don't, use or do anymore. Like just facing the reality of growing up, which is just awesome. I remember I watched Chowder, and they did a concept of facing, you know, what it's like to just grow up, and it was very special, and we sent a message on it. And another good point that he said is like this film can mean anything through anyone. Like it doesn't have a specific like message, which is really good. Usually when people look like see that, they always have these like tough fan bases to tell you, no, this is what it's gonna be. No, this is what it's gonna be. But for this one, everyone can choose their own opinion, and no one will have to be so like so butthurt about it, which is very nice. Oh my god. All right, number two, three, three.
It's the iconic My
Oh
Neighbor
shit.
Totoro, a character so famous that he's actually the icon for Studio Ghibli. A big hit in Japan and even growing a cult following in America. The hype and good talk around this movie is so big that a lot of people actually end up kind of not liking it.
Wait.
And I can see why. It's built up so much and this image is so popular that anyone going in thinking they're gonna see this spectacular big story is probably gonna be really disappointed. Luckily, when I went in, I had no expectations whatsoever. I just got it from a friend saying, hey, this is a good movie, check it out. I did, and that's pretty much what I thought too. It was a good movie. Not great, but I don't think it's supposed to be great. I think it's supposed to be just a fun little flick. Why there's such an explosion over it, I don't know. Maybe people just like the sort of smaller flicks and want to get it more attention to a point where it's actually exploded into this giant franchise.
Yeah, I
Kinda like
guess
how A
so.
Christmas Story has. But for what it is, I like it fine. The story's about a family that moves into a new home. There's a father, a mother, and two little daughters, played by the Fanning sisters. But they discover something very interesting about this home. Apparently there's spirits all over the place. In any other movie, this would probably be a scary thing, but the family just kind of accepts it and says hi.
So
Sometimes the
basically, they're
spirits
like
say hi back,
yokais.
but most of the time they just keep it hiding.
Oh
And
shit.
wouldn't you know it, one of them is a giant koala
Well,
cataroo thing known as Totoro.
it's
He
whatever the
doesn't
fuck that
exactly
is.
do much, he just kinda sleeps, takes the bus. He can fly, that's kinda cool. And he has absolutely no dialogue outside of one or two roars. And that's about it. Really, that's the movie. It's just sort of watching these girls interact with this spirit and them getting used to moving to a new location, and for whatever reason, it kind of works. And don't get me wrong, there's still some incredible imagery in this. The
Oh yeah, of
backgrounds are
course, of
wonderful.
course.
There's this cat bus
Oh
thing
yeah,
that's
that
now
one.
become world famous. And a lot of the flying scenes are very nice. If you were to ask me what happens scene by scene, like in order of the story, I couldn't tell you. That is to say, stuff does happen. You see them trying to get used to being in this place and interacting with boys and so on and so forth, but the story's not really the focus. The focus is more character and atmosphere. The casting of the Fanning sisters was a very clever call, as they work very naturally off each other. They don't act like co-actors or even just friends, they feel like sisters. Something about that camaraderie and the way they work off each other, it's pretty solid. The rest of the voice acting is pretty good too, though
Let's be honest, I heard some kids that sound just like that, 100%.
not a ton is required of it, it's still pretty effective.
It's just
It's kind of like
simple.
spending a really laid back Sunday outside with some friends, maybe coming across a weird animal or trying to interact with it, playing around, getting dirty, coming home, and going to sleep. That's kind of the movie. But again, that's kind of childhood too, isn't it? Kind of those fun summer days where you could just sort of do whatever you want. You were out of school, and I don't know. That's how I see this movie. It's just kind of a really fun yet laid back summer when you're a little kid.
Oh no, I
There's fun
agree.
music
I
and
think
goofiness,
everyone
but
had
there's
that
also a
time.
lot of quiet moments of just a character looking at another character or just taking the other in. And there's something actually really charming about it. I don't know, maybe that's kind of the strange fascination with the film that absolutely nothing can happen on screen and yet you're still kind of sucked into it. There's a whole scene where one of the sisters just sits on top of Totoro, and that's it. There's another scene where the other sister just waits for a bus with Totoro, and that's it. Yet something about the way it's paced and animated and delivered, it feels very alive somehow. You don't feel like you're being manipulated or that this is lazy. You look like you're watching something kind of cool. Not spectacular, but kind
right,
of
right
cool.
when he
And
said
the film
that,
allows you
a
to take
cat
in that
smile.
small bit of wonder. While it's not big, it still allows you to take in the full amount. You soak in the scene. You remember the feelings. You remember the expressions. If stuff like that doesn't do it for you and you're looking for something that's a lot more story based, then you're probably not going to have a good time with
Yeah, I don't
this.
think you will.
Granted, there is a dilemma in the last third of the film, but it almost feels a little forced and in some ways not needed. Like, the film just needed some kind of climax. But it's nowhere near
Why?
so contrived that it ruins anything. You still want to see everything turn out okay and stick with these characters. But yeah, don't expect a lot of action or a lot of wonder or a lot of story, but just expect a small amount to be satisfied. I think that's part of the charm of Miyazaki's films. You have this art form of animation, anything you can draw can suddenly exist, and yet they use it to tell the story of only a few fantastical things
What a
and
meanie.
focus more on the human characters. Something about keeping it so minimal actually makes you appreciate what's on screen even more. At least from my point of view. I don't know, I haven't heard there's like any kind of backlash for this film, but I've definitely heard of people that watched it and just didn't get what it was all about. And I can understand that. There is so much buildup for this movie. The image is shown all over the place. Hell, it's even in Toy Story. If you're looking for
Oh,
more
I
of a
didn't even know.
relaxed film that you can pop in and just sort of enjoy the atmosphere of, you'll find it to be pretty charming, pretty creative, and just the right amount of entertaining. I personally don't see it as one of my favorites. I don't even know if I put it in one of Miyazaki's top 5, but it's still good, and there's a lot of effort that's put into it. It's small, it's simple, but who says there's anything wrong with that?
Yeah, I think don't know if it's the people's expectation or is the movie's expectation or both. Um, but yeah, sometimes they're just movies where they just want to tell you a story of something. That's it. Even if it's very very simple, like a childhood, and he brought up some good points. Like it's if it's not for you, for those who wanted a much more grounded, much more interesting storyline, then you're not gonna get into it. But if you just want to watch something just to relax and calm down and see something more nostalgia, pun intended, then here you go. Okay, number 4, I think.
Everybody's gonna have a film that just connects with them for some reason they can't entirely explain. For many, that movie was My Neighbor Totoro. For me,
Yeah.
it's Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yes.
In a sense, they're very similar. Not a lot of story, not a lot of action, just sort of a laid back setup with a touch of the supernatural. But for some reason, this really grabbed me and hooked me a lot more than My Neighbor Totoro did.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was in college and they had an event and they played Kiki Delivery Service, and that was my very first time watching a Ghibli film, like actually watching a Ghibli film, because all this time I've been watching just clips, memes, you know, Watch Mojo. Like I never got an like a real experience of watching, you know, watching you know um, that because the only time I ever watch anime would be Pokemon throughout the seasons to the beginning all the way to the end. That's it. And when I was growing up, I started to just explore more of anime itself. Because yes, Pokemon was anime. It's just that I just got confused of the art style because every animated studios always had their own specific art style. I also seen it in like the 2000s, like some like cartoons like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will have some anime features, including the OG Teen Titans Go. They will also use some anime features as well, including Avatar: The Last Airbender. So I just got confused. I didn't really realize there was this separate culture of of stories. So, but now I just realized there's much more, and I feel like I'm gonna watch all of them in the end in the summer, somewhere between.
And that's especially impressive when you're given the age that I saw it. I was a junior in high school when I first saw this,
Oh,
and
really?
I didn't want to see any of this prissy stuff. What? A little witch with a big bow flying around, not casting spells, but instead delivering bread to people? Ah, oh, come on.
Yeah, that sounds like a typical high school reaction.
Give her a machine gun or something. I'm a stupid high schooler. That's what I want to see. But even with that prejudice going in, I saw this on TV and surprisingly kept watching it. Even for as cutesy and simple as it was, something about it just really drew me into it. To
Yeah.
a point where at the end, I found myself really loving it. The story centers around Kiki, of course, played by Kirsten Dunst. She's excited because she's at the age where witches can set off on their own and try to find their own identity. They leave the family, find a place to live, and try to see if they can work in the real world. She flies to a town far away where she eventually gets a job as a delivery girl. Accompanied by her snarky cat, voiced by Phil Hartman, the movie just follows her around as she does sort of typical girly things. Make deliveries, chat it up with friends, talk about boys, all that good stuff. And once again, that's kind of all there is to it. Just watching the simple life of this little witch. I really love how Miyazaki's worlds are just so accepting of these fantastic supernatural elements. They just live in a world where witches are normal. Okay,
Yeah.
whatever. There's a witch flying around. Hi, how you doing?
Yeah, I just feel like I've been exposed to a lot of shows that see something supernatural and they just gotta criticize the hell out of them. But to just see like just normal people saying, "Oh, there's a witch. Hello, nice to meet you. My name's Dave. How are you doing?" Like, like it's just I don't know. It just brings so much I don't. It's just funny and it was just interesting, really.
But at the same time, they still ask her questions and want to know things about her. It gives a very clear understanding of how they're accepted in this world. Kirsten Dunst is absolutely perfect as Kiki.
Oh
It
yeah, I
never
thought she
feels
did well.
forced. It never feels like she's playing the role too young or too old. It seems like the perfect age. All the side actors are great too. The only one I might have an issue with is Phil Hartman as the cat. I don't know, it's not bad, but there's always something about his cynical sense of humor where you're not sure if he's really taking the role seriously or not. A lot of people can find that even funnier, but I don't know, sometimes it seems a touch off-putting to me, but then again, that's also kind of the character, so I'm up in the air about it, but it doesn't distract too much for me. I can see how people would enjoy him.
Your room is nice, but let's take your mother's.
You're no help.
If I did have a problem, it's once again kind of like My Neighbor Totoro, there's kind of a forced climax at the end. This one's even bigger than My Neighbor Totoro because it's like this great big action scene. And on the one hand, yeah, you have a character that can fly around. It kind of makes sense to do something a little action oriented, but it just kind of comes out of the blue. It's kind of different from the rest of the feel of the movie, and
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
that
know, it's not bad, I guess. I just
Yeah, it felt I felt the same way. I was like, why are you like just throw this huge ass like action scenes out of nowhere? And like it just feels weird and I just it just turned it to 1 to 100 that fast. And that's the only like thing that I would consider a criticism, but the whole movie is pretty good because it gives a lot of good messages. But I would let Doug to explain it.
sort of feel like, couldn't you cut that out and leave sort of the very low
Yeah,
tone
that's what I'm
alone?
saying.
But then again, doesn't every movie kind of need an ending and a third act to build some conflict and drama? I don't know.
Yeah,
There must have been some other
same
way to
here.
do
That's what I
this.
was feeling.
It's not terrible, it's just a touch unfitting. But the rest of the film, like I said, is just enjoying the very simple but likable life of this little girl. You get to know the town, you get to know the neighbors and the side characters, and of course, she gets to fly around. And the flying shots are wonderful. I don't know what it is, but something about the way Japanese animation does flying scenes, they're very well done.
Oh, it
There's not
really
even any
do.
CG used here, and yet somehow you really feel like she's in the air. Something about the angles and the movement they get. I'm not sure what the magic formula is, but they got it nailed. Somehow they animate it so that you feel the weight of the character that's actually flying, and I don't know how you do that, but they found a way. Look at how she drops here. You feel the gravity in that scene. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure why I like this one more than My Neighbor Totoro, but something about it really did grab me. Maybe it's because she does explore a little bit more and she does have to travel, but at the same time you get an idea about how this world works and how people accept witches, and
Yeah.
you almost kind of want to live in this world. It seems so simple and relaxed that you really enjoy being there. You kind of want to sit with this artist and talk about what she's painting. You kind of want to help this old lady bake something for her granddaughter's birthday. And you really get bummed out when the daughter actually doesn't like the thing that she bakes. And you're just like, come on, you spoiled little brat, what's wrong with you? She worked really hard for that. You
that was the
bitch.
that was the same feeling I had. I was like, "Oh, come on! Like it was from your granny. You gonna throw that shit away? Come on, dude. Nah, that's fucked up."
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Somehow I get really wrapped up in these tiny little problems that's going on in this town and with this one girl, but screw it, I'm with her. It's like just sitting through a little bit of real life. And yet somehow with this supernatural character, it's such a weird combo, but for whatever reason, it really works. I can't even think of any other words to describe it except delightful. It's
Oh
just
yes,
friggin' delightful.
delightful is a
I love
perfect
being with
way.
these people, I love being in this town, I love flying around it, and I like seeing it from the point of view of this wide-eyed, adventurous innocent. She's just friggin' adorable. I love it when she gets a package delivered. I love it when she gives that one chef a hug for making that little delivery sign out of bread. I love it when she laughs when they almost got killed riding that weird fan bike thing with that weird inventor boy, and just, I can't help it. It's just irresistible. So like I said, if you're not a fan of these kind of stories that, well, don't have much of a story and mostly just atmosphere and character, you probably won't get that sucked in. But me, I enjoyed every minute of it. I love that they feel they didn't have to stick to the formula of a 3-act structure, that they could just show a little bit of life being lived. Sometimes just experiencing what somebody is going through is more exciting than being told what they're going through. You get more sucked into a world when it feels more real, and reality doesn't always have these 3-act structures or these clever lines. Sometimes it's just a little bit of life playing its way. Films like Bambi, Winnie the Pooh, Christmas Story, The Sandlot, they all knew that.
Yeah,
And
I
I think
agree.
Kiki does too. For me, it was the perfect little adventure that made my appreciation of Miyazaki a lot bigger.
Dude, that's such beautiful. Alright, before I'm gonna have to pause for a moment. Okay. Sorry, my phone was, about to die. Um, but I will agree on what Doug said. It just I was so invested on her story because it was so connecting. Like you just had this point of your life that it's time to grow up and you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, and it overwhelms you. You just think of all these like adults with these like activities, leadership, actions, I mean, everything. And you yourself want to be in that. And so you always think of who you want to be to grow up. But when you get to that point, you start to become nervous. You start to feel alone. You started to think over of your decisions. And I really like this part because it really just symbolizes of all of us. And it just gave us, a realization. Instead of focusing all this complication, why don't you focus on others? Why don't you start enjoying or make enjoyment with the new friends? Get a node to your, surroundings. Spend fun time as the time runs out. You know, just spend time. Spend with those that you are very connected and just want to have a chat. It's very simple yet special. Alright. At this point, I'm not gonna, like, talk over all of this. And to be fair, I think I should, like, add just timestamps to all of them. But I'll see if I do or not. Because as you can see in the video, Doug did not, finish it all. I saw him like, should I do it? Should I not? I don't know.
Sometimes a movie needs a pig. That is the only reason I can think that they actually put a pig as the main star of Porco Rosso.
Okay.
A charming little film about a rogue World War I veteran pilot who gets into trouble, flies around, fights off debts as well as air pirates, comes across all sorts of cool characters, and is also a pig. And truth be told, there is pretty much no reason for him to be a pig. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know it's symbolic, it's a curse, it's something that he has to overcome, but really, if you wrote that out, it would make little to no difference. It's not like My Neighbor Totoro or Kiki, where they can do all sorts of cool, big, supernatural things. It's just, he's a guy who happens to be a pig. I just don't get the point of it. The film is about a pilot under the same name who's trying to make a living but is constantly chased down by people he owes money to. He's constantly relaxing at a hotel run by a friend named Gina and is constantly being bugged by an egotist named Curtis. Along his travels, he gets shot down and needs his plane repaired by his old mechanic friend. But he's not doing much work anymore, so he hands it off to his daughter, named Theo. Skeptical of her
Granddaughter,
abilities,
okay.
she proves herself to be not only good, but downright brilliant at what she does. Soon Porco starts to realize she has the same diabolical brain that he does, and start working well off each other and start planning ways to continue their mischievous adventures. But once Curtis challenges him to one final duel, they make a deal. If Porco wins, Curtis will agree to pay off all of his debts. But if he loses, Theo throws herself in as the prize and agrees to marry him. Will Porco's confidence get him through? Or will the demons of the past distract him from the bigger goal? In many respects, it's much more like the calmer Miyazaki projects. I mean, true, there is a lot of flying around and gunfire and stuff, but it's not for, say, a war or something on a grand scale like
look at the
Nausicaa.
shine.
It's more along the lines of Tailspin, that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's violence, but it's all kind of playful. The characters, once again, are all really funny and really memorable. The dubbing is very well done, with Michael Keaton as the lead.
Although not as sexy
Oh
as
shit,
that
Michael
American
Keaton?
flyboy. Anyway, I'm off to Milan to fix my plane.
You're in Italy?
Sorry, baby. Gotta fly.
You jerk!
But once again, I just don't get why this character's a pig. In the story, he's cursed because he fled away like a coward. And sort of a debate at the end whether or not the curse is actually lifted, which I like that. But why a pig? Could you do something a lot more imaginative with this? Couldn't he be like a monster with 5 arms and that way you could animate them in a fun way? Couldn't you make him like a giant fly so he can fly around already? Or couldn't you just, I don't know.
It's a
what
pig.
can you do with a pig? Even the people around him don't seem to care. They're just like, oh yeah, we know him. He's a pig. Whatever. And like I said, in most Miyazaki projects, that's part of the charm, but here it just doesn't seem to affect anything. You could just as easily have him be a normal pilot with just a scar on his hand or something, like in Princess Mononoke. The only thing I can figure is maybe they just wanted a little bit more of an identity for the film, like a visual identity.
Yeah, I think
You can look at the
I could
poster and
see.
be like, a pig flying? What? I'll believe that when pigs fly. Oh, wait, yeah, I guess that's the joke. But it just kind of seems like a middle that doesn't have a whole bunch of possibilities. Either make him something really grand or crazy, or have what he's cursed with just something very subtle. But like I said before, that by no means makes it a bad movie. For all the dogfights and machine gun fire in this, it's actually very, very relaxed. It's just the characters being really charming and working off each other, having pleasant conversations. The writing's decent, the acting's decent, it's all good. I just don't get the main creative choice.
It's the pig.
But maybe I don't need to, because the film is still a lot of fun regardless. I don't think I like it quite as much as Kiki, because, like I said, they do take more advantage of the idea. But still enjoyable, and worth seeing at least once. Hell, the animation is so good, maybe it's even worth seeing twice. If you want a film that has a little bit of excitement, a lot of humor, but still at its heart, it's just kind of laid back, this is definitely a good one to check out.
Wow. Just a pig. People, I bet you someone in the in the Ghibli studio say, "Hey, do you think we're gonna find a way to say when pigs fly?" And they were like, oh, "Yeah, that's a good idea." But I mean, yeah, I'm just supposing that they just wanted to have a like a character that be recognizable, and that's it. I don't think they were adding much, but I think it's just the symbolism of a pig because he ran away. But okay, because I never watched this movie, but why a pig? Wouldn't that be like a chicken? Would a chicken make sense? A mouse? A rat? But a pig. Um. Okay. Okay. Here's the other one.
By popular demand, Pom Poko. I
Pom
wish I
Poko.
had a better excuse as to why I didn't include this in the original Disney December, but honestly, I just forgot. I thought I had scheduled, but then when I looked over the list, it looked like it wasn't on there, so I said, okay, we'll get to it now. The film
Wait,
itself is
was those
anything
nuts?
but forgettable, with a very distinct and entertaining story. Pom Poko is about a bunch of raccoons, or tanukis, who are constantly fighting for their land that is trying to be taken over by the humans. However, the angle in this isn't quite as dramatic as, say, Princess Mononoke. It's actually got a lot more comedy and is more upbeat. For the most part.
Oh,
Bunch of raccoons trying to attack
again with
humans,
the
you don't really think of
nuts.
that much variety. But again, remember, this is Japanese lore, and the tanukis could shapeshift. Yeah, remember in Mario 3 how he could always turn into a statue in the tanuki suit? Well, this is the same idea. The raccoons
Oh
can not
shit,
only turn into
really?
people, but they can also bend and shape their body however they want. The only problem is, a lot of them have forgotten how. And with the land constantly being destroyed more and more every day, they send out to the elders to show them how to do it once more. The elders, of course, teach them well, and it's a constant battle back and forth to see who can keep the land and who's going to lose it. Being much more
Whoa,
comedic, these
that was
characters end
cool.
up being very likable and very funny. It's almost like watching a Looney Tunes cartoon, just seeing these big-eyed, fluffy animals constantly go against people and a lot of them screaming and yelling and running around, flailing their arms and making jokes back and forth. It always keeps the energy really high. But at the same time, it has a lot of character too. You do get to know these raccoons and their personalities, and you like how they work off each other and how celebratory they are and how they always get along for the most part, and they're always going on adventures, and you don't want to see them lose their land. The voice acting doesn't have as many celebrities as much as natural voiceover artists like Tress MacNeille, Marisa Marsh, but they do fit in a few names like Jonathan Taylor Thomas and J.K. Simmons, and they all do fine for what's required. The only thing I might have a little bit of an issue with is that there's a surprisingly kind of high death toll in this movie. Yeah, it
Oh
doesn't look
really?
like it, and in some ways the tone doesn't even act like it, but a lot of
Oh.
characters die in this. Both people and raccoons. Some have a heavy impact, but others are just kind of a glance in a sentence. On the one hand, I say this kind of gets in the way with the light-handed tone, but then on the other hand, we don't really question that much when we see stormtroopers falling to their deaths constantly. And hey, maybe a
Good
little
point.
bit of dark reality can help too. It doesn't totally ruin the tone, just once in a while it's a touch distracting. And oh yeah, let's talk about this elephant in the room. For anyone that has seen the original Japanese version, there's a scene that you might find a little, awkward.
The
When they're finding out what their bodies can do and
The
what they can make
fuck?
shapeshift, they find out something very bizarrely unique. They can blow up their genitalia to an
What the
incredible
fuck?
size. Yep, those big things that they're bouncing off of, that's supposed to be their private parts. Different cultures, I guess.
I I point out that shit. Like, why is the nuts like hanging out? At okay. Wait. Does that mean when Mario put the Tanuki suit, he's using his nuts to fly? Are you serious? Oh my god! I that shit ruined my childhood.
Yet, on the one hand, I can see a bunch of kids laughing at this. Oh, isn't that funny? They're using their private parts and making the big tee-hee-ha-ha. But on the other hand, Jesus Christ, they're using their private parts. Now, to be fair, they don't really look that much like their private parts, seeing how they're playing with the size and shape and everything, but this is still kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
I remember when I saw this in Japanese, I said, well, there went the chances for an English dub there. But nevertheless, Disney still picked it up. So I remember thinking to myself, how the hell are they gonna tap dance that little bit? Well, apparently in this version now, tanukis have pouches. Yep, that's their way around it.
Oh, wow.
And in all fairness, this, I don't think it's actually that bad a way around it. I mean, come on, even taking the Disney equation out of it, wouldn't you be a little uncomfortable if American audiences saw raccoons using their junk to fight people?
Yeah.
Different cultures, I understand, but as someone who grew up in this culture, yeah, that would never get a market and instead would be replaced with a ton of angry parents. So I actually think it was a very clever solution. But whether they keep that in or they don't, it's still a very highly entertaining movie. Most of it is just watching them trying to stop the humans from taking over the land and trying to show the value of what they have. Very simple, but very effective and very funny. Sometimes it gets a touch heavy-handed, like the main character actually looks at the camera at the end and speaks to the audience saying the very obvious message. But for the most part, it's just a really enjoyable adventure with a ton of creativity and a lot of imagination. It's also nice to see Studio Ghibli do kind of a different story, something that doesn't take place in a fantasy world but has fantasy characters. And they're not human, they're all animals. I don't really see that from Ghibli too much, where all the main characters are animals.
Yeah.
It's got good characters with a good plot and
Yeah, I
a good
can see
moral.
that.
It's definitely a lot of fun to check out. Transform into something that's fast and check it out for yourself.
Okay, I got nothing to really say about that. I have never seen that movie in my life. Even the pork chops over
Whispers
there.
of the Heart doesn't get a lot of attention, but it probably should, because for what it is, it does it very well. A coming-of-age story about a girl learning about life and romance and growing up and parents and family and friends, all that stuff. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Haven't we seen this a million other times in a million other movies made for teenagers?
I was
and
about to say.
tweens, and they're always done awful, and they're always super sappy and cliched. Well, while there are a few corny moments here or there, I think this is actually a very well done film that really addresses the age. I think it very much shows the battle going on with a lot of young people between their passion and what they should most likely do with their lives. Our main character is named Shizuku. She's a bookworm who loves to write and discovers one day that all her favorite books are checked out by another person. She starts to daydream about who this person is, but then realizes it's a boy she can't stand. Over time, of course, they both start to lower their defenses and they realize they actually really like each other. But that's only one part of the story. Another part involves her discovering this antique shop where all sorts of statues and beautiful items give her ideas for stories. She befriends the owner and starts to find there's a real magic to the place, at least in a way that inspires her imagination. So much so that she's now determined to become a full-time writer, even at her young age. She tells her parents she wants to drop out of school and spend all her time trying to write her perfect story. The parents, respectful that she wants to choose her own path, perhaps even a little too respectful, allow her to leave for a bit so she can do exactly that.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
some would argue not the best choice, but then again, she does obviously learn her lesson, and I don't know, it's a little controversial, but it's an interesting talking point. And once again, that's
I mean, just let fate teach your kid a lesson. I don't see the controversial on that.
kind of the very simple story. We're just following her around, seeing what her life is like, as she herself is trying to figure out what her life is like. Where is she going? What does
Wow.
she want to do? What's her destiny? What's her calling? All that fun stuff that teenagers ask themselves a million times when they're younger. The film has a lot of charm and even a lot of drama, but as before, there's not a ton of story. So again, if this is something that doesn't grab you, you can probably pick it up very quick. But I personally saw it as one of those annoying teen romp stories that were constantly advertised in America in the early 2000s, and hell, even nowadays, I'm sure. That's actually done right and done with respect to its main characters, and just young people in general. You kinda get sucked into her stories. You really enjoy her relationship with the man who owns the shop. You kinda hope in a strange way maybe her and the boyfriend can get together even though they may not be perfect, or maybe they are perfect. I don't know. It's young love, and that's the point of it. Even the corny scenes, I mean, like, the really corny scenes are still so damn likable. There's a scene where they're trying to learn this American song, and they're trying to learn it in English, which, yeah, is a little weird with an American dub, but I think you can still catch on to what they're doing. And as they're trying to sing the song, all of a sudden, all these guys are just getting back from a concert and they hear her singing. So what do? They all go down and they start playing with her. Oh my god, this is so silly and hokey, but I can't help it. It's just so likable.
He's so
Maybe it's
sweet.
because the rest of the atmosphere of the film is just so down to earth and so mellow, so that when something like this happens that is pretty cheesy, you kind of accept it because it doesn't happen that much in this film. A kind of corny moment can play okay as long as the rest of it is mostly grounded in reality. It doesn't go for too many obvious laughs or too many traditionally dramatic moments. It instead tries to capture that age when possibility starts to meet the real world. When dreams can be dashed, but when you discover that just means new ones can open up. The voice acting, once again, is very nicely done. I heard the girls that were best friends in this were actually best friends in real life, so they worked
Oh,
off each other
really?
much
That's
more
awesome.
naturally. They even got Carrie Elways for this one throwaway role that actually plays a bigger part in a later movie, but we'll get to that when we get to that. It's actually clever that they brought him in for just a few lines, but again, I can't say too much until we get to the later film. If I do have one problem with the film is that the ending is really sporadic, out of nowhere, and really fast. I mean, there's like no lead into the credits. It's like somebody says a line and then suddenly we're against these pretty buildings with a nice song playing with the credits rolling.
Oh,
There's
really?
no segue, there's no fade to black, there's no nothing, it just jumps straight to it. And yeah, I kinda get the idea with the final line. It's puppy love, it's that age, it's all about falling in love at this certain point in time and how you are and you rush into things. It's still weird. But still, the rest of the film is really charming, really nice, really laid back. I feel very much captures an age that isn't life or death, but rather just discovery, influence, and making mistakes here and there. It's kind of all those things you want to see in those popular coming-of-age stories that are also kind of corny, but they're done right. It's soothing, it's enjoyable, and it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. That was sweet. Man, I'm gonna have a lot of things on my watch list.
It's what many
Oh,
consider Hayao
shit.
Miyazaki's grandest masterpiece, Princess Mononoke. This was one of the first major releases in America of Miyazaki's work. Originally under Miramax and getting one hell of a cast to redub it, Mononoke was the highest grossing film in Japan until Titanic came along.
Oh,
And that's how they
really?
marketed it for a while. What is in this film that got so much of the Japanese culture coming back to it? Going in, I was pretty hyped up. And after it was done, I definitely liked it a lot. Maybe not to the level everyone else liked it, but let's jump right in. The prince of a village named Ashitaka tries to stop a demon from attacking him.
Dude.
After his arm gets touched by the demon, he finds out that he's doomed to die because of it. At what pace will it consume him and how much of its strength will it take? That all depends on how much he can tame the part of the demon that's forever gonna be inside him. He decides to set out on a quest to, as he puts it, see with eyes unclouded by hate. What he discovers is a war going on between the human world and the world of the forest, filled with animals and gods. The humans want to make a prosperous future for themselves, while the animals and the gods of the forest want them to leave. He comes across an industrial leader, voiced by Minnie Driver, who wants to cut off the head of the spirit of the forest so they'll have no more trouble from them. One of the forest's greatest fighters, the Queen of the Wolves and her half-human, half-wolf daughter, are at the forefront of trying to stop her and regain balance back to nature. All while Ashitaka is caught in the middle, not knowing which side to choose and not knowing which foe to fight. The movie has a lot going for it. In fact, I think you could argue this is probably Miyazaki's most adult work.
Oh,
Not
yes.
just because of the violence and gore, though there is quite a bit of it, but
Jeez.
because its message is not so obvious and blatant. At least, not in terms of movies that have done it in the past. What's the route this could so easily go? The Ferngully, Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas, Avatar bullshit where the humans are evil, nature is good, the end. But one of the great things about this film is that there is no real villain.
Yeah.
Even Minnie Driver's character is very likable. She's helping to cure the sick. She's a great motivator. She brings people together. She knows the tragedy of war, and she listens to the people who have lost so much. There's also other side characters that could so easily just be seen as villains, but they put it very straightforward that there are no real bad guys in this world. There's just people trying to get what they can.
They're a
Trying
very
to survive,
gray
trying to be
area.
comfortable, trying to be prosperous. It's a very human as well as animalistic trait.
Yeah.
And that's part of what makes it so clever. It's showing that the humans and the animals are very much alike, but not in the same way that, oh, we shouldn't fight them because we're so similar, but in the way that this is the reason why we're fighting, because we are too similar and we both want the same thing. Lots
Damn.
of land and
Yeah,
lots
that's a
of means to
message.
survive a very long time. It's funny because when I reviewed Nausicaa, a lot of people were comparing it to this movie. Like which one did it better, which one was stronger, and a lot of people seem to
Jesus.
lean towards this one. In a sense, I kind of agree. I think this movie has much better characters. I think its message is a little bit more direct, but it's also a little smarter. It ties in much more to what's happening nowadays.
Yeah, by the way, those hogs are basically the Imperial troopers from Cadia. No, they're the Creed. Was it the Death Quote Creed? The Death Creed? Cree Death? Whatever. It's a Cree something. They're basically they're basically them. And I'm not saying an insult. These hogs will just full on Leroy Jenkins anything without giving a fuck. Like they have gone through a lot of things and well there were many casualties and they didn't care. They don't give a fuck. As long as they win, that's good enough.
And will probably happen in the future. Where Nausicaa had this really big story that went all over the place and could kind of do it because it was so large in scale, Mononoke feels like a smaller story yet kind of tries to do the same thing. It goes everywhere and back again. We cut back to so many of these same locations like 3 or 4 times. And don't get me wrong, I like these locations, but there's only so many times I can see our main character walk back and forth between them.
Oh yeah, I
It's
can
definitely
see
a
that.
film where before the climax, I was kind of looking at my watch saying,
How long?
is this movie?
Yeah.
Not that I wasn't enjoying it, but I was definitely noticing the length. And definitely felt it could have been cut at least 10-15 minutes. Just take out a couple more scenes of him running to the other side saying, wait, stop! Also, as much as I love the characters in this, I do think there's one that's surprisingly not very interesting. And believe it or not, it's Mononoke. I don't think she's a very interesting character. And she should be. Half human, half wolf, constantly torn between what she is and who she's supposed to be. This should be great for the main character. They should be able to talk and share stories and be able to relate unbelievably. They're both kind of going through the same thing. But most of her dialogue, voiced by Claire Danes, is mostly just her shouting, no, I'm a wolf, no, I'm a wolf. Which is so strange because Miyazaki is so good.
I'm not gonna lie. I that's what I was feeling as well. I was like, oh my god, can this bitch shut up? Like it was getting to my nerves. Like, come on. It was really getting onto my nerves.
These kind of characters. The young heroine who's action-packed but doesn't know which route to take. He usually writes them so well, but this one is just so whiny. I have no idea why the film is named after her. It would have been neat if she played as big a part as Ashitaka. It would have been nice if she was just as complex as he was. But as is, she just didn't do anything for me. I know that's so weird because she's like the big icon from the film, but outside of her design, I think she's a real missed opportunity. But thankfully, like I said before, the rest of the characters are very interesting.
Oh yeah.
And their dilemmas are very understandable and relatable. This is about the majesty of the forest and the majesty of mankind, both evolving too fast for their own good and trying to figure out where to level out. I do really like this film, and there's even elements of it I absolutely love. I think if it was just a bit shorter, a little less complicated, and the Mononoke character was made more interesting, it could have been something phenomenal. At least from my standpoint. I know to a lot of people this is phenomenal, and
No, that's what I feeling as well. When I first saw this movie, I was watching in I think it was in Netflix. I think it was high school. Yeah, I think it was somewhere in high school. And I want to just clarify this is that I watched it with a friend. I didn't watch it just for myself. I know that I said that my first ever watching Ghibli film was you know, Kiki Delivery Service. That is true. But it's me willingly watching it, like finally experience it. When I was in high school, a lot of people, even not in high school, a lot of people in school were always talking about this movie, and there have been times where they played the movie, but and sometimes I just want to, watch a movie by just watching a movie. If that makes any sense. I want to just sit, relax, and see if I made a good decision on watching the movie or not. That's the one thing I want. I want to be more specific. And thankfully I did. And I'm sorry if this is a confusion for my, information. Really, I it's been so long. Like it's just so like There are some things that I always like contradict myself, so I hope you forgive me.
Can totally see why. The voice acting, the imagination, the writing,
Oh
it's a
yeah.
strong piece. I guess I just don't quite see it as the masterpiece that everybody else builds it up to be. I do have issues with it that hold me back from absolutely adoring it, but the stuff that's good is just too damn good to overlook. Whether you love it, like it, think it's mediocre, or even don't like it at all, it's a good film to check out because there's just too many interesting things in it. I can't see anybody going to see this film and just saying there was nothing to get out of it. It's an impressive feat, and everybody should check it out at some point.
Oh yeah, that was a
I
lot
just can't
giving
call it
out.
the Lawrence of Arabia of animation like everybody else does. But I still think it's a pretty damn good movie. The animation alone is breathtakingly impressive. So, go find a copy, give it a watch, and see what all the animation buffs are talking about.
Yeah. Alright. What's next?
It's no secret that Hollywood has been out of original ideas for a while. Everything is either based on a comic, or a book, or a popular series, or a TV show. Everything is retro and based off of something. And while a lot of good stuff has come from it, it is kind of a shame that we don't really see that much new stuff coming out. But
Yeah,
then
it's
every
pretty
once in a
sad.
while, you get something as friggin' awesome as
Oh, here we
Spirited
go.
Away. Hands
Now, I will say, I've never watched this. I only see the imagery and I only see when people talk about it. I don't know the full extent of it. I actually watched an episode of maybe Film Theory, I believe, talking about this movie, but I'm not quite sure. They made a reference, I think. I think that's what they did. I think they made reference of this. And that's the thing. This was so iconic. Everyone was talking about it. I heard it so many times, okay? I have never watched it, and I'm planning on watching it. So please do not go after me.
down one of my all-time favorite films. This
Oh,
movie has
everyone
the
films.
creativity of all the great trippy fairy tales, Alice in Wonderland, Labyrinth, The Nightmare Before Christmas, so much of this really original stuff that you just don't see that much anymore. I almost wonder if years later they're gonna try and do a reboot of this, like a different interpretation.
Oh
The world
no,
is so
please
open,
don't.
the creature's so strange, it actually would kind of be fun to see an artist's different interpretation of it. Most people say you know something is a masterpiece when you can't duplicate it. In a sense, I kind of disagree. People say books like Peter Pan or Christmas Carol are masterpieces, but we're constantly seeing different versions of it all the time. So
Yeah.
many new adaptations come out, and I can see the same thing happen with this. It's a world you're both delighted by and horrified by at the same time. You want to live in it, but you also kind of want to run away from it. In my opinion, that's the making of a great environment. The story's about a little girl and her parents that are moving to a new neighborhood. They come across what they think is an abandoned theme park, but really it's an enchanted bathhouse. When the sun goes down and the lights come on, all sorts of various spirits come from around the world to relax here. This terrifies our main character as she finds out her parents have turned into pigs. And she also lives in a world that absolutely hates humans. But luckily, she befriends a boy, who can thankfully also turn into a dragon, who decides he wants to help her. He introduces her to the old lady who runs the place, and decides that if she wants to stay alive, she'll have to get a job. And the rest of the film is her just trying to survive in this bizarre place, while also trying to make friends out of enemies who can eventually help her get her parents back. The girl in this movie named Zen is very identifiable. She is terrified of everything, but so are we.
Oh
We
yes.
don't know what this world is, and it is really creepy. We see weird stuff happen. Like I said, her parents turned into pigs. There's monsters around every corner. She has to sneak around or else they'll kill her. But at the same time, you start to enjoy kind of the goofiness of it too. There are a lot of funny characters with unbelievable designs. This whole movie is like a party house for imagination. Every creature has their own unique look. Some more human, some more spider-like, some more lizard-like, and the majority of them have very distinct and likable personalities. What I kind of like about though is unlike something like Kiki or My Neighbor Totoro, they do put a little bit more of a story to it. There is still a goal that has to be accomplished by the end of the film.
And that's the thing. Everyone agreed that each character have a story to tell, how it impact the story, and they bring so much to the table. That's what I've been hearing, and I am dying to watch this movie. I am dying to watch this movie. I'm adding to my watch list.
Has to escape and save her parents. But it's how she goes through it that's the focus and what's so entertaining. She comes across so many delightful people, both delightful in how charming they are or delightful in how terrible they are. Some are even kind of half and half, and it's hard to get a grasp on them. Like most of Miyazaki's great work, there is no one straight up villain. There's just kind of rude people, kind of crazy people, kind of sane people. It's just a wide variety. The voice acting, once again, pitch perfect. That's the same actress who voiced Lilo doing the voice of Zen. Man, what a talent. She gets every emotion you need to feel in every scene. She is frantic, she is whiny, and she is a complainer, but it's never to a point where she's annoying. You totally understand what she's going through. Hell, you would probably do half of this stuff too.
Yeah.
There's also so many great side stories going on about discovering people's pasts, finding out the flaws of these creatures and how they can be helped out. But even in between all of that, there can still be moments of just relaxing and letting the atmosphere sink in. My god, my favorite scene is when they're on the train.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing is happening here, they're just traveling and looking out the window. But after all the craziness that's happened, it's just the one place you want to be. There's no dialogue here, there's no talking whatsoever. It's just them looking out the window and you can feel what they're going through. This is the power of a visual medium. Not everything has to be spelled out. A scene can just play and you can take whatever you want from it because you know there's such talented people behind it. Talented people that
Oh,
can make
yes.
you feel afraid in one scene but delighted in the next. If I really had to nitpick anything, I mean friggin' anything in this movie, it's that the owner of the shop also has a twin sister. They literally look exactly alike,
Really?
even down to what they wear, and with all this
Well, fuck, I'm spoiled.
creativity and different people and creations, why didn't you make her look different? She didn't have to be a twin sister. I mean, okay, there's one scene where she kind of fools Zen, but it wasn't necessary. You could have made her more beautiful or more ugly or just do something a little different. But like I said before, that's really scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of nitpicking. I've said before, this is a movie that's so good, I'm actually kind of jealous of it. I wish I could come up with something this beautiful looking. I wish I could create these incredible locations. I wish I could come up with such funny ideas to get rid of curses and stuff like that.
Oh, there's the one thing I have learned about the creator. I'm gonna butcher his name, but there is no plan. He basically just continue as he thinks, which is incredible, to say the least.
It's kind of like the imagination of a brilliant child but brought to life by brilliant adults. These incredible animators and phenomenal storytellers that just keep you sucked in. Through the simple needs of our main characters that anybody can identify with, and can identify with very quickly. Being scared of a new place, trying to figure out your identity, having problems with family, putting up with people you don't like, all these things that are so quick to pick up. And it's all done in one of the most incredible environments ever put on screen. I love this movie from beginning to end. It's just unbelievable. The acting, the writing, the storytelling, and above all, the unbelievable imagination. Everyone's praised the hell out of this movie, and I'm one of the critics who's just gonna do the same. But it's just that good. I can't find that many things wrong with it. It's the exact kind of movie I would want to see at any age. One that just engulfs me in its world.
Yeah.
I don't even know what else to say about it. It's just amazing. Pop it in your DVD player and experience it for yourself.
Don't worry, I will. 100% will. Alright. What's next?
So remember that story in Whispers of the Heart that the girl was writing about this cat baron who could go into these magical lands and had these great powers?
Yes?
Well, apparently the idea was so good that they decided to make a movie out of it.
Oh.
Insert The Cat Returns. A very confusing title, seeing how the cat isn't really returning. He's meeting this character for the first time, but whatever. The character he meets is a girl named Haru. She saves a cat from danger in the middle of the road, but it looks like that cat is a magical cat. The prince of a kingdom, to be exact. A kingdom ruled by talking felines just like him. Touched by his rescue, he asks Haru if she would marry him. She's so dumbfounded by what she's seeing, she doesn't know what to say, and he confuses it for a yes. So the king of the cats, played by Tim Curry, demands that she be brought to the kingdom and turned into a cat herself.
Oh.
Her only salvation is a cat baron, played once again by Carrie Elways, who voiced the exact same character in Whispers of the Heart. Through all his magical antics and mysterious ways, he finds a way to get her out of trouble as she gets back into trouble, and they constantly keep saving each other back and forth. And it's a race to get home as all sorts of whimsical magic keeps taking place, much enchanted scenery is discovered, which of course leads to a lot of fun and some fantastic imagery. It's funny that they got
Wow.
Carrie Elways to play this part because it actually does sort of have a Princess Bride feel to it. Not the story itself, but more kind of the feel. It is kind of funny and quirky, but it's also kind of like a fairy tale, with magical lands, flying, talking animals. It's a really charming setup. A young Anne Hathaway plays Haru, and she does a wonderful job. Actually playing it very similar to her Princess Diaries character, which I stand by wouldn't be that bad a character if she was put in a better story. This is that better story. She is klutzy and awkward, but she's also kind of wide-eyed, innocent, and just trying to make sense of a world that has very little of it. The rest of the voice actors are great too. Tim Curry, how can you go wrong?
Not entertaining enough. Yes, sir.
Oh my god.
Next, better not stink. Got it?
Peter Boyle as the Baron's sidekick. But there is one casting choice that just boggles the hell out of me. I first saw this in the original Japanese language, and one of my favorite characters was this cute little assistant cat. You just saw her and you just wanted to pinch her cheek. She was so cute, and she had this little smile and this friendly little voice. She was just adorable. But then, when the American dub came, who did they get to voice her?
Excuse me, but I think there's a bit of a problem.
Wait a minute, is that Andy Richter? Why is
What?
Andy Richter doing what is so obviously a female design? This isn't like in Kiki with
Animation
Phil Hartnett, where
era?
maybe
Oh,
it's
not
male, maybe
not
it's female.
not era. Voice dub. Sorry. Voice dub.
You can't quite tell by the design. This is so clearly female. Every time I see this character, it's just so jarring to instead not hear this cute little fluffy voice and instead Conan's co-host.
Emergency exit for all guests right here, please. Thanks.
And don't get me wrong, he does fine. It's just, it's so clear this isn't the right voice that should go with this character. It's kind of like giving the voice of the Little Mermaid to a male baritone singer. It just doesn't add up. However, the rest of the film is just a pure delight. It's
Oh,
not anything on
wow.
an epic scale like, say, Mononoke or Nausicaa. It's more like what the girl was writing in Whispers of the Heart, a cute little fairy tale. But as cute little fairy tales go, it's very well done. It's funny, it's imaginative, it's clever. It has enjoyable characters and a lot of wonderful visuals. But hey, why listen to me talk about it anymore? See for yourself and get whisked away.
Holy shit. This must be the newer ones. How long we been going? An hour and 22 minutes.
If you see my
Jesus.
Nostalgia Critic review of Ponyo, you might remember a very particular ending.
It's Miyazaki, it has its own charm, and it's just a lot of fun. Not like that movie Howl's Moving Castle.
Since then, so many people have asked me, why do I hate Howl's Moving Castle? And the first clarification is, I don't hate it. I just don't think it's very good. And even by that, I kinda mean by Miyazaki standards. It is still visually interesting and has a lot of imagination, and it even has a fair amount of good character. What it doesn't have is focus. This
Okay.
movie is all over the place.
Oh my
and sure, I'm not
God.
gonna act like story was always the biggest part of a Miyazaki film. It was much more about environment and characters and so on. But there was still enough of a simplicity to his work that made it really come out as charming. This one just throws so much at you, it's hard to remember even what happened. Howl in the movie is a wizard played by Christian Bale. He comes across a hatter named Sophie, who then comes across a mean lady known as the Witch of the Waste. It appears this witch is in love with Howl, so much so that when Sophie refuses to serve her, she puts a terrible curse on her, transforming her 18-year-old body into that of a 90-year-old woman. Determined to get the curse lifted, she sets out trying to find Howl and comes across, what else? His moving castle. While there, she comes across some colorful characters, a scarecrow known as Turniphead, Howl's apprentice named Markle, and a talking ball of fire voiced by Billy Crystal. She decides to appoint herself the cleaning woman of the castle because she sees it as such a mess. The bad news is it doesn't seem like he can lift the curse. That's not especially on his mind anyway, as there's two warring countries, and one of them wants Howl to use his magic to help them win their fight. Howl goes back and forth between agreeing to do it and not, all while Sophie comes across the evil witch, who seems to be losing her power, and thus the curse seems to be going away, but
Oh.
only a little. And actually, it's kind of inconsistent. Sometimes she's older, sometimes she's younger. I'm sure there's a reason why, but honestly, this film goes all over the place and tries to throw so much at you that I guess it got lost in there for me. As a lot of this movie did. I'm constantly trying to remember what exactly it was I watched and what happened in what order and what they meant and where we were, and it's just always doing something. I try to figure out why this scatterbrain of a movie did so little for me when something like Spirited Away, which you could argue also does a lot of strange stuff and throws a lot at you, did so much. The only thing I can figure is movies like Spirited Away or Kiki or Nausicaa is that they're fueled by very simple desires. Seth
Yeah.
just wants to save her parents and leave. Kiki wants to be an accomplished adult. Nausicaa just wants to save her people. Here, I forget what Howl's motivation is, and yeah, I know Sophie wants to get the curse lifted, but even that sort of seems like something that's put on the back burner half the time. With the other films, the ideas were motivating the visuals. Here, it feels like the visuals are motivating the ideas. I remember there's a particularly strange scene where Sophie and the witch are so slowly going up these stairs, and it's uncomfortable, and it's odd, and it's not pleasant to look at. I remember asking myself,
Oh my
why am I
God.
even watching this? How is this enjoyable or dramatic or creative? It's just weird and unpleasant. That's not
I
to
mean,
say
it's
there aren't some
anime.
good
What do you
moments.
expect?
The visuals, for example, are great. There's a really nice scene at the end where she time travels for some reason or other. Again, it's really complicated and hard to follow, and it creates almost kind of a dream-like scene. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but the colors and the atmosphere and the mood, it's the only time it felt like I was genuinely watching a Miyazaki film. At least in terms of what it made me feel. The rest of the movie definitely looks like a Miyazaki film, and even has some thoughts like a Miyazaki film, but I
But-
just didn't feel the same magic as other Miyazaki films. Like I said,
Yeah.
I don't think it's awful, and
Okay.
even people who ask me why I didn't like the film kind of nod and understand when I explain it. Even the most diehard Miyazaki fans don't usually consider this one of his best works. It's still impressive, and it's animated great. Hell, even the voice acting is still pretty well done. But it's not really one I look forward to watching again when I had to do Disneycember. It has nice artwork here and there, but for the most part, it's just kind of confusing and dull. Which is such an odd thing to say with so much bizarre imagery. But if you don't care behind what's motivating it, why should I care to watch it to the end? I don't know. If you enjoy it, I understand. I'm not gonna act like there's nothing to have fun with in this movie. But for me, it's probably the only Miyazaki film where the lack of focus actually got in the way of it being a good product. I know I'm kind of a minority on that, but I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say I like something when I legitimately don't. But I'm not gonna act like it's anything terrible either. I'd much rather watch the worst of Miyazaki than the best of Michael Bay any day. And I don't really see this film as a waste of time. There's still some cool stuff to see. But in terms of getting some really emotional, magical moments, I'd say his other work is more worth checking out. I know a lot of people like it, it's just not for me.
Apparently, this is when they just, just do some crack or something. The special kind, the more extra crack. Because that looks like a Dr. Seuss story.
Tales from Earthsea is based on the series of novels that sadly I haven't read. But based on the majority of the film I've seen here, I just may need to. It starts off with a ship of people that look up and see a bunch of dragons wrestling. Okay, a strong start. But this news makes it back to the
shit.
king of the land saying that dragons never fight, that this is a horrible omen. They talk about how a lot of strange shit has been going on, like how wizards have been losing their power, balance is being thrown all over the place, something bad is coming, something terrible. And just before they start to proceed forward to figure out what to do about it, the king, who seems like a pretty cool, nice character, is killed. I thought this guy was going to be the main character. He seems so nice and strong-willed. But no, the kid that stabbed him is the main character. And on top of that, he's the son of this guy.
Oh,
He steals the sword,
what
runs
the
away from the
fuck?
palace, and the opening credits roll.
Oh,
Holy shit.
okay.
That's the way to start a story. A
Oh my
million
God, I
questions
can't
were
believe
racing
I'm
through
being
my mind. How is this the main character?
wasted
What possessed him to kill his
surprises.
father? His father seemed pretty cool. Why are dragons fighting? Why is it bad that they fight? Isn't that what dragons do? What place do they have in this environment? Why is the son suddenly normal now? He seems afraid of these wolves and like really creeped out. Wasn't this the psycho that just killed his dad a moment ago? Just, oh my God, it's just racing through my head. Everyone thinks you have to start off these epic fantasies with these big battles or explosions or something. But in reality, all the great fantasies start off as little stories. They do this so you can connect with the main character, who's usually somebody who's kind of timid, kind of afraid, but about to go on this big adventure. And that's exactly what this movie does. We get to know our main character, who is the prince, who's on the run from his heinous crime and comes across a wizard, played by Timothy Dalton. I'm convinced this guy is Liam Neeson's monotone if it was made more interesting. Just based on his performance, I
What?
would follow this guy anywhere. He's stern and strict, but he definitely sounds like he knows what he's talking about. It doesn't sound like a guy who's trying to sound badass. He sounds legitimately badass. Along their way, they come across a girl with a burn mark on her face. She seems beyond socially awkward, and naturally the prince and her don't get along. But it also turns out she's been adopted by this woman who's a friend of the wizard. Or mage. Is there a difference? I don't know. I guess I'll call him mage. Still, like the show, they
I
start
just
to
call
open
whatever
up,
the
and
fuck.
of course, they find out they have a lot in common and start a nice relationship together. But trouble's a brewing when another evil mage named Cobb, played by Willem Dafoe, is one of the few wizards who hasn't lost his magic. Thus, he plans to use the imbalance that's going on in the world to somehow achieve eternal life. And the mage seems to be the ticket how. Along the way, we discover secrets, magical powers, and the truth about what people's spirits, as well as their physical bodies, are capable of. For the first 2/3 of this movie, I was absolutely in love. Everyone
Wow, I
always said
could
this film
tell.
was just okay, but I didn't know what they were talking about. I was sucked in. I was sucked in because I knew this was a smaller story that was taking place in a grander battle. They kept talking about how something big
Holy
was
shit,
coming, some sort
Gandalf.
of big change, and there's just this feeling of dread throughout the whole thing. It's kind of like in Game of Thrones, how when you get down to it, there really aren't that many big battles in it. But it's all about the build-up and establishing the character.
Yeah,
While there's not
that's what
quite as much
makes
talk of
story
strategy
special.
in this, there certainly is a feeling of a lot of impending doom. Cobb, for example, is one of the creepiest villains. Willem Dafoe, throughout almost the entire performance, does nothing but whisper his lines, and it is just unsettling. His voice is like a spider crawling its way into your ear. It's just so uncomfortable whenever he speaks. He's so hard to figure out, too. I mean, you know he's a bad guy, but he always has this confident smile on his face. You know he can do these terrible big things, but he's also very frail and moves very little. You have no idea what this guy is up to, but you know he has everything figured out.
Yeah.
And that's one of the creepiest things about a villain. One that just has no fear whatsoever. So like I said, watching this film, I was just engrossed. Where was this all going? What's it building up to? What's the bigger, grander picture that they're finally gonna deliver? But then, when we get to the third act, I was really disappointed. Instead of
Really?
a big battle, or getting a bunch of Vancers, or getting an army together, or just something that seems larger, it's just a small fight in a castle with the hero wielding his sword, a few magic spells thrown, and just fighting a great big monster while trying to save the damsel in distress. Oh man, what a letdown! For a film that opens up with dragons wrestling and so much dread and people saying there's this great imbalance and something
Damn.
terrible is coming, this is that terribleness that was coming? I totally accept the possibility that maybe this is just the first part of the story. Like maybe this is the Fellowship of the Ring part and there's going to be more to it. But even in Fellowship, they knew how to make a bigger deal of their climax.
Yeah.
How to make you feel that this is important stuff you're watching. Ironically, the problem I always had with Fellowship is that you never felt the simpler side of it. The normal quiet life of our main character that's going to be interrupted. Everything in Fellowship was big and huge, even the party they threw. This movie has the exact opposite problem. The simpler stuff is there and is very well done. And it has some phenomenal build-up for what they could possibly deliver. But in this movie, it never is
Holy
delivered.
shit.
Even the ending kind of looks like they're done and wrapping up. Speaking of which, I don't understand the ending at all. Without giving away too much detail, there's another interaction with a dragon, kinda, sorta, and I just don't get it. It didn't seem like something that was meant to be abstract or open to interpretation. It seemed to be like, yeah, you're supposed to know what this is. You're supposed to know what's going on and why it's going on. The film is directed not by Hayao Miyazaki, but by his son, Goro. And for a first film, it's
okay.
really impressive. Like I said, I love the first 2/3 of this movie. I don't think I've ever been so hyped to see where a fantasy film was going. I really thought this was going to be like a Narnia, something that starts off so simple and basic but turns into this grand epic battle. Instead,
Yeah.
it feels more like the last level in a Zelda game. Even Willem Dafoe
I,
seems to
I'm
go
not
for
gonna
that
lie.
terrible
I'm not gonna lie. That was what I was thinking as well. I thought that this became like some type of Zelda game now.
terrifying voice to something that seemed more Green Goblin-ish. But still, does that mean I should dislike the entire movie for that? I don't think so. I still love the majority of this film. If they ever did make a sequel to it, I'd probably watch it, in the hopes that it actually does go somewhere bigger. Like I said, I haven't read the books, I have no idea how close it is or far it is to it. But
Yeah.
for what it is, I really enjoyed the journey. I just didn't enjoy where it ended up. I'll emphasize right now, though, that I'm one of those people that just likes these kind of stories, the stories that start off small and get bigger and bigger and bigger. For example, I'm one of the few people that actually liked the first Hobbit. I kind of felt like it was the Fellowship of the Ring I never got. So I don't think this is
okay.
a fantasy that's going to engulf everybody. Hell, most people say it's okay at best. But personally, I could get lost in this world and its environment and watch these characters all day. Yeah, I know this review is kind of all over the place, but hopefully you can get an idea if this is something you'd be interested in. Take your chances and see what you discover.
Yeah, this one I'm like, eh. because you start out big and all of a sudden you just like that. Weak sauce. No one want. No one wants weak sauce.
It's almost kind of pointless to talk about
How
Ponyo,
long
seeing
do
how
we
I've done
have?
a whole
Oh,
entire
Jesus.
nostalgia critic
Hey!
dedicated to it. But let's take a quick look anyway, because this time we won't have any jokes or anything. Just a straightforward, honest opinion. The
Boom.
film is very loosely based on The Little Mermaid, and when I say very loosely, I mean there's practically no reason to connect it to The Little Mermaid. It's a female half-human, half-fish that comes out of the water, befriends a male, and that's about it. Everything else is completely 100% different.
I would like to point out that I've seen this in TikTok, but only in like just showing scenes. They didn't spoil the story, so I really want to know what Doug, summary of this.
It has less to do with The Little Mermaid than, well, The Little Mermaid. Ponyo is an enchanted fish who comes from a magical man named Fujimoto, played by Liam Neeson. One day she decides to go exploring and comes across a boy playing in the sea. As she becomes more and more human, the boy and her start to form a very strong relationship. The longer she stays human and out of the sea, the more it seems to throw the world out of whack. And I mean really out of whack. Towns are
Jesus.
suddenly put underwater, the moon is about to crash into the earth, it suddenly gets
Oh my
totally
God.
insane. But you almost wouldn't notice it, seeing how totally calm and relaxed everybody seems to be.
Yeah.
Other houses are underwater. Big deal. You know what? It's a good day for a picnic. Let's row our boats, go.
I mean, considering the amount of films Ghibli film had created, I won't be that surprised that they see this as just a normal day. I mean, there was witches, there was yokais, there was like futuristic machines. I mean, you have all this crazy shit. I feel like people will be like, it's all right. It's just a Tuesday for us.
Fishing, just totally have fun on this otherwise beautiful day. Yeah, it's that kind of movie. Can Ponyo get back in time in order to set everything right? Well, again, being that kind of movie, you can probably guess what the outcome's
Holy
gonna
shit.
be. Weird. And that's definitely a word to describe this movie. Weird.
Oh, yeah,
it's
definitely.
still charming and really likable, but it is weird.
The
The funny
fuck?
thing about it is that even though there is a lot of surreal imagery, that's not what's so strange about it. The strangeness really does just lie in the story. You couldn't
Really?
predict the reactions or the choices that these characters make, or the
That's some
outcomes that they
evil
produce.
shit.
On the one hand, it's just so strange to get a grasp on. I mean, it seems like this is a tiny little story about a girl befriending a boy and all sorts of little magic. But then
Yeah.
you hear talks about the moon is going to destroy the world, and it's like, where did this come from? But on the other hand,
Yeah,
that's
that's
also
what I'm feeling. Like, okay, so it's gonna be this simplicity. A supernatural being befriends with someone little. They become good friends, and they're gonna be having some sort of dynamic, like ideology, not ideology. It's just like him and her being in different worlds and trying to adjust from one to the other. Something like not as similar as Kiki delivery service, but somewhere like that. But no, it's just like, oh, doomsday is about to happen, and everyone just having a good time, just rowing boats and catching fish. Like, what? Okay.
kind of charmingly strange about it. It's basically in its own strange setup where even if the world seems to be underwater, it's kind of okay.
Yeah.
Something about that optimism is very bizarrely likable. Unexplainable to say the least, but still likable. And I think a lot of that just comes from its simplicity.
Oh my
All
God,
this
is she
chaos
about to kill
constantly
him?
going around these characters, and yet the biggest concern for our main lead is to get ham. Yeah, she discovers
Ooh.
what ham is and is totally obsessed with it. How can you not like a
Oh.
film so weird? Even the art style seems a lot simpler compared to other Miyazaki movies. But I don't mean that in any way to insult it. I think that's just the style. It's drawn much more like a kid's book, and it's kind of told in that way too. Well, for the most part, again, the complications of the plot are really, I don't want to say lazy, but not really needed. But then again, maybe that's the point of it. Maybe it is meant to just exist in this world where this extreme simplicity and this extreme complicated, batshit insane plot can exist together and just sort of create its own weird setup. I don't know if that necessarily
What
makes a
the
classic,
hell?
but it definitely makes an interesting experience. And at the heart of it is still some likable characters, some enjoyable animation, and a whole lot of charm. I really like watching this kid and just how ambitious and excited she is.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it by this commentary. Like, she looks pretty fun.
The tiniest things just get her going nuts, and yeah, her happiness is kind of contagious. So does the film make a lot of sense? No. But is it meant to? Probably not. The two words I
yeah, I
constantly hear
guess
from
I
people
was
in
supposed to
describing
know.
it is weird but cute. And I think that's sort of the reaction I get out of it too. It's crazy, but it's adorable. It's all over the place, but it's a lot of fun too. I definitely wouldn't put it up there with Kiki or Spirited Away, but it's definitely a movie that's likable enough to put on a few times.
Yeah.
Take a look and experience the madness for yourself.
I mean, I guess you can say that it's like, I don't know, Alice in Wonderland, in a sense. I mean, just weird and funny. Okay, how many minutes? Okay. Wait, we're getting close.
The secret world of Arietti seems very much returning to the form that films like Kiki and Totoro did. Except in this case, they take the idea of a very small story and literally make it a very small story. Based on the book The Borrowers, we follow the world of very tiny people that live in a little house and how they manage to get around without ever being seen. But our main character, Arietti, does get seen once, coming across a boy who apparently seems to be very slowly dying. He seems to have come to peace with it and talks about his life with her. Over time, they find they have a lot in common, share a lot of their experiences, and form a very strong friendship. But things start to get a little crazy when one of the other people in the house starts to think there are little people that are roaming through the wood and dedicates all of her time and effort to finding out where.
Oh, Jesus.
Once again, that's about all there is to the story, but once again, that's about all that you need. The characters are all very likable and all very intelligent. I really like hearing the conversations that they share with one another. You really feel a sense of family in this film. A lot of films I see that focus on family have a lot of jokes and one-liners and put-downs and stuff, kind of like a sitcom. Here, everyone seems to talk like a real person. The only one who seems to speak differently is the boy with the terminal illness, but that's a boy with a terminal illness. And it's really fascinating to get inside his mindset, to hear how he sees the world
Yeah.
and how he feels so very small in it. Which of course is very fitting, telling this to a very small person. They both have big worlds with big limitations and yet for entirely different reasons. But even for all their talking, there's still a lot of visual imagination to this movie. Even just them trying to get across the kitchen is like this really big event. There's a great scene where they have to do it at night and they have to be quiet. It's almost like watching an episode of Mission Impossible. It's just so suspenseful. And it's also great to see just how they get through this world. All the little secret passages, all the devices that they make. The engineering, even on such a small scale, is very impressive. The only downside I have, which I'm starting to accept more and more, is just sort of a criticism of Japanese cinema, I think, is that the ending, once again, seems a little rushed. At least, in the placement of the credits. The movie seems to be building up to a proper epilogue, and then they just start showing the names of everybody that's in it. Doesn't that usually mean it's time to get up and time to walk away? I can't really focus on what they're showing me if I'm reading the people that worked on the film. And I really would have liked to have been totally engrossed in that and just watched that without a bunch of names flashing in.
Yeah, that was the thing that Kiki. I'm just gonna call it Kiki. Kiki was like just the ending, and here comes the credits, which I know is a good ending. But could you at least add the credits like after when you see everyone going back together? Like, come on, why don't you just add the just everyone gathering around together, and then you hit the title card, and then credits? Why are we adding them together? I don't like it because it's just like in urge, like instinct. Credit, goodbye. Like I just will get up and goodbye. Oh,
Front of me. I don't get the creative
okay. Sorry, I dropped my phone. But yeah, it's so weird.
choice, but I can definitely say it happens in a lot of anime films from Japan. Maybe it's a creative style I don't get, but it does kind of bother me. But it in no way ruins the film. This is a really charming, likable piece.
Yeah.
It's not any huge epic, but at the same time, you do really get sucked into a lot of their problems. You do kind of take a little bit of a gasp whenever they're about to be seen. You do kind of become fearful that they might get caught. But at the same time, you enjoy the simpler moments of them just sitting back and having a conversation about the greater things as well as the smaller things. I really liked it, and I definitely enjoyed its very laid-back structure. If you're looking for big adventure, you'll get elements of it here and there, but it's mostly a very calm, subdued family film.
Okay.
But hey, what the hell's wrong with that? Give it a shot and see for yourself.
Alright, I will watch that. If you don't know, I have a notebook next to me, so I'm just putting down what I'm about to
Part of me
watch.
says I should really hate From Up on Poppy Hill. Like, really hate it. This is a phenomenally cliched story. A high school girl comes across a high school boy who, big shock, don't get along. But
Of
the more
course.
they hang out, the more they realize maybe they can get along and start to form a romantic connection. But once she shows that her father has died in the war and he sees the picture, guess what? By huge coincidence, it looks like her father was also his father, and they may be brother and sister.
What?
Even he himself says it's kind of like a bad melodrama. Frustrated by this, they try to figure out what they're supposed to do while interacting with all sorts of goofy characters and learning life lessons and interacting with adults who are sometimes right, sometimes wrong, while constantly hearing that goofy music that just celebrates a time of being young. Yeah, it sounds pretty standard and done a million times, and in many respects, it kind of is. I was kind of rolling my eyes that these are the turns that this story is taking, but at the same time, I did find myself kind of wrapped up in it. I think a lot of that comes from not only the pacing and the animation style, which is beautiful to look at, but also some really damn good voice acting. I mean, the voice acting in the American dubs of the Ghibli
Really?
films have usually been spectacular, and Disney's done a wonderful job. But this one especially seems good because, unlike the other Ghibli films, there's not a lot of supernatural elements or magical scenes
Yeah,
or
it's just
weird
normal.
angles or anything like that. It's just sort of straightforward. What you see is what you get. Therefore, the performances have to be good or it's gonna lose you very quickly. I'm really amazed at not only how well they match the lip movements, but how they keep the emotion of the characters totally intact while doing so. Everybody has a slip up here or there, even the best actors. But this one seems really on track and seems to hit everything pitch perfect. Another strong point is its side stories, which again are a little cliched, but so much time is dedicated to them, I do find myself actually getting pretty wrapped up in them. For example, there's a building that holds a bunch of school clubs that's going to be torn down. All the students inside, most of them boys, are pissed off and constantly fighting to keep it around. However, with the help of our main character and her friends, they show that a big part is the appearance, and that if they clean it up, get it looking nice, and stop being awkward social shut-ins, maybe they'll have a better chance to save it. At first I was kind of annoyed at what
I'm not gonna lie, that's how everyone should stop going on internet and start socially with each other, especially in college and high school. Everyone is taking online classes. You need to stop doing that. You need to go out and have a beer.
cutouts a lot of these boys seemed like. Just the traditional nerds that said traditional nerdy things. But after a while, I really didn't want to see that place go. I really found myself liking it. I even grew accustomed to some of these oddballs, even if they were kind of cliched. So on the one hand, yeah, it is kind of a story that's been done a million times. The coming of age story that's in the 60s and kind of American Graffiti-ish meets Animal House-ish meets, I don't know, just a million other movies you've seen before. But I think with a visual touch, some really good acting, and some really decent pacing and atmosphere, it actually comes out okay. Can you feel the manipulation when it's going on? Absolutely. But you can also kind of feel the charm of it too, slowly over time. I do still see a lot of major problems with it, especially with the music that seems constantly on all the time. But even that starts to die down after a while, and you start to hear these people for what they're really saying. And maybe you start to see the movie for what it's really doing. Be a charming little film that may have been done a million times before, but maybe isn't trying to do anything that new. Just try to do it in a way that's standard, but charming.
Okay.
At least, charming enough. I'd say you probably have to be pretty forgiving in order to really get into this film, but if you lower down your defenses a little bit, it isn't half bad. Not a great experience, but not a harsh one either. If you're looking for a romance that's standard but pleasant, this isn't a bad one to check out.
Alright. Few more minutes. I would say maybe
Let's
somewhere.
finish
Oh!
off Disney-cember with The Wind Rises, Miyazaki's final film. Which,
Oh, this is
yeah,
the
he said
final
that a
one?
couple times before, but hey, who am I to complain if he wants to make more movies? They're always great. As far as I know, this is the first time he's actually taken on a true story. The film centers around the life of a designer who created the Japanese World War II fighting planes. Many people would see this as a bad person, but the film makes it very clear that all he wants to do is be innovative and push the boundaries of what can be done with technology. It's shown very clearly
Oh.
that even from his youth, all he's ever wanted to do was push the envelope. And the film, rather than focus on the controversies of what it led to, though don't get me wrong, it's not entirely ignored either,
Oh,
focuses
jeez.
instead on the innovation and the imagination to bring these incredible wonders to life. In some respects, it's the most downplayed out of the Miyazaki films. I mean, there's not really any monsters or moving castles or anything like that, but he still finds a way to incorporate so much beauty and so much artistry into it. For example, he constantly gets visits in his dreams from his heroes, great inventors and creators who are constantly encouraging him to try and find a way to make himself even better. He also comes across a lot of places that happen to look beautiful, and even survives an earthquake that, as you imagine being a Miyazaki film, is pretty incredible to watch.
God
Again, one of
damn.
the charms of Miyazaki is that you can be technically not watching much, just a guy working on a plane or talking about ideas or working with other people, but there's such a likable ambition and atmosphere and environment to all of it. You want to get to know these people, you want to help them with their planes. And knowing Miyazaki's love for gears and gadgets, this film has all sorts of that. Creating, building,
Jeez.
failing, trying again.
I
And you
think
really
this is a
admire this
good
guy
way
for
to
having a
end
dream,
a
trying his
movie.
damnedest to follow it all the way through, even if in the end it would amount to something horrible. As I said before, the film doesn't ignore the fact that this resulted in the deaths of so many people. There's definitely people dropping hints about the Nazi party and what he's getting involved in, and all the way through it, he doesn't know what to do. He just wants to create. He wants to be the inventor.
Yeah,
I
oh,
suppose
he
a lot
just
of
wants to
people
do
could
something
look at him as a
simple.
bad person for this, but it's also kind of like Einstein. Here's a guy who created the atomic bomb, one of the greatest destroyers of human life, yet we still see him as a genius. And there's definitely people that don't like him too because of that. But there's no denying that there's still a brilliant mind at work that used a lot of creativity, imagination, and determination to do what they thought was going to be a great thing. And I think that's the best thing to admire about this film. The ambition of the main character, the ambition of him trying to get his ideas done and trying to do what he loves to do. There's a wonderful final image where he's discussing with one of his masters what he's done and what he's created. It's a beautiful yet haunting landscape of a bunch of people dead and planes
Damn.
destroyed, yet it's in this beautiful green field of imagination and possibility. It's such a weird mix, but it's also the perfect bittersweet sum up to everything this guy was working for. The problems I have with the film are very minor. For example, the romance in the film, though I don't know the real story about it, seems a touch forced. He meets this woman by accident during an earthquake, and then years later they happen to stumble across each other again, and even without knowing each other very well, they decide to suddenly get married. It's almost something like out of a 40s Disney fairy tale. Again, I don't know if that was intentional or if it was a cultural thing, but it was definitely a little odd.
I feel like
It's
it's a
not that they have
cultural
no
thing.
chemistry, but for a film we know is supposed to be based on real life, it's a touch distracting. I also start to notice things that I guess I never really picked up from Miyazaki before that are also a little weird. Like he never really does sweating or crying correctly. It always kind of looks like they have some sort of sickness.
Yeah, that's what I was
know this
thinking.
guy is trying to be helpful and everything, but he scares the shit out of me.
Oh.
Something about those eyes, they
What
just
the
don't
fuck,
look
dude?
right. It looks like some sort of weird demon. I don't know. Couldn't they have fixed that up or something? But aside from that, this film is very obviously a romantic
I thought okay, I thought that was a villain, but no, that's supposed to be a supporter. What?
version of true life events. Yeah, a lot of it technically happened, but it's pretty clear there was a lot of creative liberties. But never to a point where it's insulting. It's kind of like Tombstone. They got the basic story and people down. But yeah, they obviously changed stuff up to make it flow a little nicer and be a little bit more epic, and you can usually tell when those moments are. I think what impressed me most, though, is only in the last 10 minutes was I starting to get a little tired and saying to myself, I wonder how long this movie is. But then when I checked out and saw it was 126 minutes, I couldn't believe it.
Jeez.
Only in the last few did I realize how long it was, and through the rest of it, I was just enjoying it so much. I can't believe a biography about a guy making planes had me so invested and so drawn in that I was actually willing to sit there for 126 minutes without even realizing I was sitting there for that long. If this did turn out to be Miyazaki's last film, it would definitely be a good one to go out on.
Yeah,
It's
that's
very
what I
clear
just
he has
said.
this incredible respect for someone that just wants to follow his dreams and do something incredible. failing time after time but still getting right back up to try again. Much like Miyazaki, it's a guy who loves his work and loves doing beyond what he thought he was capable of. Definitely might push some people's sensibilities the wrong way, but I think the focus of the film was to look at the power of imagination,
Yeah.
and perseverance and hard work,
Yeah, I really see
and
that.
dedicating yourself to never giving up and doing something incredible. And I can say that's definitely what I've gotten out of the Studio Ghibli films.
Yep.
A world of imagination, entertainment, and so much hard work that went into it. So many of these films are classics in a lot of people's eyes, and they deserve to be classics in even more people's eyes. People this dedicated, hardworking, and are able to get their ideas to the big screen should be celebrated as much as possible. So thank you so much for joining me in this Disney-cember. Like I said before, there are
you're
a couple
welcome.
popular demands I'll throw in January, but for the most part, I want to say thanks to you guys for always making this such a fun experience to put these together, share my opinions, share yours as well, and keep talking about great artwork that comes from great people. Keep alive those great ideas, determination, artistry, and always allow great imagination to take flight.
Yes, sir. Huh. Are you gonna do credits? Oh wait, no. I was like, oh, this is gonna be the end. No, it's not. Okay, we got more.
By popular demand, The Tale of Princess Kaguya. Based on the famous Japanese folktale that sadly
Whoa.
I don't really know, so I'm not going to be able to compare it that much. What I do know, though, is that this is a film that has a totally distinct artistic style that is all its own. It has this incredible simplicity to its technique, which can often work in its favor, and other times possibly be a little stale. Which is fitting because the film itself kinda has that feel to it. But before you kill me,
Oh,
let's go ahead and
really?
actually look at the story. A man cutting bamboo in the forest suddenly comes across a baby inside one of the trees. At first, she looks like royalty, but then she suddenly becomes a real little kid. He takes her home to his wife, and he's totally convinced that this is a princess. Or at least, that she's supposed to grow up into a princess. Why else would she look like royalty when she was born? Convinced that her status is going to mean everything, the father does everything he can to try and buy her all the things he thinks she deserves. The mother is not as concerned about her status as much as she just grows up happy. One minute she's a baby, the next day she's a little girl, the next, possibly a teenager. They're not sure why this is, but they try everything in their power to not only love her, but also try to get a royal position. Which, I'll admit, is a little confusing in this world. They sort of get her etiquette lessons and get this really nice place to live in, but her parents...
Yeah, I was about to say, like, aren't they like poor? How the hell they able to like afford all this shit?
King or queen, so why would she be a princess? Either way, that doesn't seem to stop them as they go around parading to everybody that she is in fact a princess. Soon she starts getting all this attention and all these suitors start coming in, but as par for the course, she doesn't really like being a princess, doesn't really like the suitors, and is constantly getting into trouble.
Yeah.
As time goes on, she does discover her real origin, and if I say any more, it would kind of give things away. Let's just say it's definitely more supernatural stuff.
Oh yeah.
The best parts of the film are the
I
beginning
should have
and the end.
known.
The beginning for the tight family connection and how lovable they are working off each other, and the ending for its dreamlike imagery as well as tone with sort of a bittersweet send-off. I dare say it's almost a little too strange in how rushed it is, but it still leaves an interesting feeling.
I
The
mean,
middle is where it's
aren't
the
all
toughest to
Ghibli
get
films
through.
a bit rushed at the
We've
ending?
seen all these cliches before. The princess who doesn't want to be a princess, so she's going to fight back and be rebellious, and all the people are going to tell her to be this other thing, and yeah, seen it, not too much that's new. But on top of that, it is just so slow moving. There are so many moments that drag on and on. I remember thinking to myself, this should be over in a few minutes. Why are we focusing 10 to 20 minutes on some of these subplots? For example, she gives a challenge to each of these three suitors that try to win her hand. They're all impossible challenges, but nevertheless, all the suitors try and accommodate anyway. This should only take up like 5-10 minutes of the film's time, but I think it goes on for something like 20 or 25. I guess I
Damn.
just didn't understand why these scenes were so important. I mean, I love atmosphere. You see me praise movies like Kiki that have very little going on, but they're just so likable and they have such a world to explore that, yeah, I absolutely love it. With this one, though, maybe because the style is so simple, you don't really feel like you can get sucked in as much. At least not enough if you're going to work with a very loose story. The style itself, I'm gonna be very honest, I was kind of expecting a little bit more with. For example, there's a scene where she really gets her feelings hurt and she runs out of the palace, and all of a sudden everything goes really sketchy and it just looks unbelievable. This is inspired an animation style that actually works around the emotions of the character. Holy smokes, this is ingenious. Maybe the more confident she feels, the more together and straight the lines will be, or the more she's falling apart, the more the animation will look more rugged and sketchy. And yeah, holy smokes, this is almost like a totally new way to do animation. It could actually revolutionize some things. But that scene where she runs out is literally only one scene, and it's at the most a minute long. Why couldn't they do that throughout the majority of the film? I mean, I know it probably would cost a little bit more money, but it's already so simple anyway. Why not go all the way with it?
Yeah.
But for the most part, it
Me every time when I watch Invincible.
just sort of stays in this one style, and that's it. What a shame. What a missed opportunity. So did I dislike the film? I don't know if I can say that. I mean, it was still so engaging to watch, and yeah, it was slow moving, but I still want to know where it was going. There are still a lot of scenes that have a lot of imagination and sort of play with tone a little bit, almost like something out of a dream. But I don't know if I can get behind it like a lot of other Studio Ghibli's works. I think I saw more possibility that was tapped upon than fully explored. Which isn't totally bad. I mean, I'm glad something new was done here. I just wish it could have gone all the way with it. So again, kind of a mixed review, but I would still lean towards that is worth checking out because, hey, it is still great artistry. And
mean,
it is
yeah.
still a story that I want to know by the end what was going
Which
to
is
happen.
great.
Take that for what
It's
you will
great.
and decide for yourself.
Oh, ads. Well, I guess this is finally it. Well, that was very interesting. Like, I really love Ghibli film, and I am gonna watch like some of them in like somewhere in the summer. But thank you all so much. I was a bit late on national anime, but I hope this can be acceptable. Thank you so much for watching this. I will put a link in the description down below of the original video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.